Good morning, His Royal Highness. It's really an honor to talk to you. Can you do a short presentation of yourself to the people that see you who probably might not know who you are?
I can also say good afternoon from Ghana and then in Ashanti region, Kumasi to be precise. My name is His Royal Highness Osman bin Ahmed. I am the regional chief of the Fulanis and then the vice president of Fulani chiefs in Ghana.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi Ewanfo, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started with this episode.
I am third on the lineage to the throne from my father, who was the head of the Fulani community in the Ashanti region here since 1922. He died in 1978. And then my other brother took over from 1978 and died 2017. And I took it from that place to date. I'm a livestock farmer and an entrepreneur. I have two companies. I have the Black Wall Street Africa and have the Cattle Innovation Ghana.
That is really interesting. It's really interesting, Your Highness. You see, so you run a business, you also manage to lead the population, the people that you are representing, So how do you manage to do both?
I grew up in the palace, so I take it like it's a normal thing, like business first. I have business to run, and that is the only way we can survive. Man should live.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So when you look at the situation in the royal palace today, because we are in 2021 today, maybe in the time past, what would we have changed?
Yes, at first, the type of tradition there's a lot of changes in the traditional setup. I remember my father was a livestock merchant, and people were bringing livestock from all over West Africa to him to sell. At that time, it was during the Gold Coast time, and the people were bringing in their livestock all the way from Mali, from Niger. Would you even believe some of them brought it all the way from Spain to Ghana here and to Kumasi precise for them to sell. So we see business as part of leadership, because if you are a leader, a lot of people will come to you for help. And if you have a vision that your people should be educated, people should get good sanitation, people should be, their health matters, definitely you need to work to make money in order to take care of all those things. So gone are the days where the leaders, traditional leaders, go and attack people and then win them and sell them and do all sort of things, which has contributed towards people moving, selling slaves to America and Europe. Now the tool is for what can we do to rather bring them in, to bring them back to us for those crimes that our forefathers did, in order to also make them also feel at home. That is the essence of being a leader now. A leader should be somebody who look at yesterday and do the correction against tomorrow. So definitely business and traditional leadership goes hand in hand.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Anyway, you touched the question of slavery, although it is very important for us, whether you are looking at the contemporary Ghanaian history or the West African history, Nigerian history, all of it, we know that it is so enshrined in our history. So anyway, but we might not have time to go to that today. In fact, I'm very happy that I'm able to talk to you after a long time that we'll be making this update. I'm really very happy. So I'm going to stick to the most important part of this conversation.
Exactly.
But one thing I'm trying to understand is that, so you want to tell me that even today, 2021, the role of the traditional ruler is still valid in our society? That is a question.
Seriously. In fact, our people respect the traditional leaders even more than the what do you call, how do I call it, the government, because some of the government policies should rather be backed by the traditional rulers, because our people understand us more. Our people knows the way we are. Our people take our position in high esteem. So therefore, the traditional leadership people that should complement the work of government in making the people understand it. So I'm sure our role still plays the way it was at first, At first, everything was under the traditional leaders. Time have changed. There has been the white man has brought his own system, but rather we will need to also come and complement the work of those people so that at least government policy will be much understood by the people when they see you, like for example, like this is a paying of taxes to help the government, understanding the government policy to explain it to your citizens are all part of the traditional leaders. And we should make sure that we do it hand in hand. We should work hand in hand with the government for the benefit of the people.
You see, a lot of Africans in the current time that we are do not have a good grasp of their traditional heritage. I'm looking particularly to the African diaspora. So, of course, if you were born maybe in a system where you have the traditional ruler, the structure have always been there. Or even though there is a threat, you might not necessarily feel it that much because there is a connection. I'm talking of if you have never left Africa. But to the people who have left Africa, who have remained in the diaspora, they have suffered a lot in that they find it difficult to be able to connect to their root. As a traditional ruler, is it something that you sometimes worry about, that you sometimes have heard people talk about? What is your take on that?
Actually, it's sad. In fact, I have traveled outside the country, outside this continent. Last 2 years, I was in America. In fact, that is even the main reason why I told you I have a Black Wall Street Africa, trying to bring in most of our families, most of our people from the diaspora to come home so that at least they come and see what we are doing, come and feel us, to come and so that we unify ourselves as a body. So yes, our forefathers did not do well for this kind of slavery and all those things, but it is our duty to try and sell our tradition out for them to learn and then to let them come home and feel as we are ready. In fact, my palace is ever ready to receive all our people who are outside. That's why I try to make it open for them to come because if they are not feeling safe outside, when I say outside, I mean American and Europe, why should we not open our arms to receive them? Because they are part of us. If you go to America, you see people who are really like us, but they don't have any connection with us. So it's high time we open it up for them to come. Yes, Africa is their root, Africa is their home, and we should welcome them. And luckily, my government, when I meet my government, Ghana, there's a homecoming summit that we always do yearly to bring them back, especially those in America. They've been coming to open. Will you believe that even the wife of Bob Marley is in Ghana? He's a Ghanaian. So these are what we are doing, bringing them home for them to come and feel the culture, for them to make sure that they are one of us. They just we think that they traveled and then have come back. And then luckily, some of them have gotten all the things that we needed in terms of education and all those kind of things which we need. And we also have gotten the resources, the natural resources that if they bring in what they have learned and we are bringing in what we have, I'm sure it is going a long way to help Africa as a whole. So I think it's a good thing that we open up our doors for them.
Now, since you have made mention of slavery for more than once, and when we are looking at the African diaspora, that is a key part in the history because they didn't take a trip to get to the diaspora, at least to the major part of it. No, I'm not talking of me personally. I live in Italy. One day I decided that I was going to move from Nigeria to Italy. That is a different ball game altogether, even though I'm part of the diaspora. But to the larger part of the African diaspora, these are people that were bundled like sardine and tossed into the ship. And this is how they got to this place. They were sold and sold out. And when we look at this history, sometimes we often always look at the European as the perpetrator of this act. But if we go to find out more about the history of slavery, now we continue to see that even the Africans themselves have been part of this evil act against their own people. By this I mean the African traditional ruler has been part of this in one way or the other. So when we now say, come home and sort of reunite with yourself, are we also opening up to what has really happened? Really sincerely talking about what has happened in the past? That is what I'm trying to understand, sir.
Yeah, this is a very dark idea that actually is so sad too. Definitely, our own people are also blamable because why were we fighting ourselves? Why were they people enticing you to go and look at your neighbor, attack him, and then sell him out as a slave? We are also blamable. Our forefathers also contributed in this thing. But then two mistakes never made a right. So therefore, excuse me, what we have to do is that we have to, number one, avoid this kind of thing again. We have to open it up and then show our remorse, show our sincere sorriness for them to know that no, our forefathers did not do the right thing, but we are in here to change the equation. So we should be able to know that, oh, there was a mistake done. But this thing were also never done out of this thing. The white too might have instigated us to be fighting among ourselves. At that time, the elite ones think that they should move the Western way. Yes. Out of that, then they tried to bring intertribal war among people, and then since they were buying people, slave trade, people realized that that was the easiest way to make money, just like how people are now using kidnapping to make money as part of Nigeria and other places, which is sooner crippling into our country. That's why we are getting up to fight it. So these are some of the things. Our people have been washed to realize that the idea of selling slaves was a quick way of making money. So now we need to stop it. Instead of fighting, we should rather open our arms and embrace them and then show sincerely that our forefathers did not do the right thing. And then how do we come together to forge ahead? Now, they have been taken to America and Europe, but they were also, some of them did also good things. Some of them have gone to school. They have all those kind of technological development that Africa needs because we have a lot of untapped resources. Now, what they have learned, why don't we come together to build ourselves again? And then to accept that, yes, we did make a wrong, but at least, we should find a way of taking advantage into all those things that they did. Yes, we know they've been taken abroad, they've been sold out as slaves to work for our fathers to work in the plantation. Now they have also gone to school to learn a lot of things. Some of them are rich, some of them are learned in a lot of things. We also have in Africa also have something that we can all come together to build Africa. I think when we look at it in that sense, it can also minimize the pain, and then we see that no, we need to come
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, it is true. We need to come together. But I'm trying to understand if there is any strategic move that is being made on the part of the traditional rulers in Africa. Because when we talk of forgiveness, we first of all need to be sincere to ourselves of what has happened, because a lot is really going on within even the discussion of slavery. All right, with that apart, what really are the steps being taken to make sure that some of these people abroad, I'm not saying that all of them, all the African diaspora, all of them must come home, but this become a choice. If you want to, you are offered this possibility to return home. But what
Yes,
really are the strategies that are in place to help them reunite to their homeland?
good. What I did was even I would talk about my palace what I did. I went all the way to the state of Arizona to bring in my developmental queen, which is called Queen Aminata. Now she just left the country. She just left Ghana about two weeks ago. She came, there was a festival done for her. She saw the people, she called all the district heads to come and meet her. She met the women's group, she met the people, she met the chiefs, she met the regional minister of our country. All these things are methods to bring them home. Now she knows home now. She has been here, she knows the way we are, she has a seat in the palace. And then every day I discuss about developmental change with her. And then now we are also trying to champion it not only here to bring in most of our people here. And then we are also looking at the economic aspect of their coming. Which area are they going to invest in? How am I going to work it in such a way that they can be citizens, world citizens, American citizens, European citizens, also a Ghanaian citizen. I'm also working out the way so that they can all come home, and then we build our tribe, we build our continent, and then My palace is open to everybody that wants to come. I know most of them don't have identity in terms of tribal identity, but yes, our identity is African. We are all Africans. And that is
When you say tribal identity, can you like expatiate on that a little bit? What do you mean for people who do not understand it?
yes, in Africa we have tribes. Like I told you, I'm the regional head, and then the vice president of the tribe called Fulani. I'm sure you are from Nigeria. You know who the Fulanis are. Fulanis are in Nigeria. Fulanis are around most of the West Africa. So when I am the regional head of the Fulani, when I say tribal identity, I mean they should come and join us as Fulanis and as Africans at the same time. For me, I don't even look at the tribe as very important. What I look at it as we are Africans. I'm a Pan-Africanist. And I believe in all coming up together, but I'm a tribal head too. So this is the way.
Okay, yeah, you are right. I'm from Nigeria, and Fulani is a huge part of our population and also our identity as a nation. That is absolutely correct. I'm trying to see if there is a way that are there some kind of rituals? Are there some kind of a tradition that that sort of define who you are as a people in Africa, other than the national identity that is issued by the national government? And because, like you, like you know very well, the nationalism in Africa is something that is relatively new in terms of republics, no? But the people actually have been there for very many years. We have the different empire. Even in Nigeria, for example, a composed of the three major ethnic group, Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa. But of course, there are about 510 different languages in Nigeria, which means that it's made up of diverse people who have been evolving for thousands and thousands of years. So you don't want to tell me that there are no way of identification for these people in a traditional sense. So that is what I wanted you to speak to. In what way do we really identify ourselves?
I think we have to identify ourselves as Africans. Like I told you, I'm a Pan-African. I am a religion, I'm a tribal head, but I believe in an Africa as a body. So we should rather address ourselves as Africans rather than tribal. Yes, we have those tribes. You cannot run away from it. So now when I try to make the Fulani tribe, African tribe. Whatever you are a Fulani, you are an African. We have our own, we have festivals and all those things that once a while when we are opening up it up to everybody. And when they come, not only that different culture, different way of dancing, different way of dressing, which we are trying to bring in other so that we become African. I believe in the term African rather than throwing yourself to only the tribe. It is true, I'm a tribal head, but I believe in the whole of Africa coming together.
And now we talk also about tradition. We talk about our rights, no, what we do that sort of keep the tradition alive. Because if we don't do this thing, tradition become almost a philosophy. But it's not really a philosophy; it's a practical thing that we do continuously. And
Exactly.
like we said before in the beginning, there are a lot of people that lose track of their African identity or their African heritage. So what do you think is the right strategy to sort of bring back ourselves to the knowledge of our past in a way that we understand the values of our culture?
Yes. Number one, we should try to appreciate our culture and tradition. That's why most often we, as a leader, you should let the people know your tradition. You should try to maintain the language. You should encourage people to be speaking the language. And then you should also be during festival. They should be trying to bring in people to come and see how you are, the way you do your thing, the way the child do what, the way we do our marriages, the way we do our funerals, the way we do our naming ceremony. And then, like traditionally during our festival, I ride on horsebacks and all those things. People follow, and then they see the way we are, the way we eat, the way we talk, the way we think. These are all things that we can use it to bring our people together. Yes, we have a tribe, we have a tribe. And then we should also be accommodative of other traditions too. As I said, all in the way of unifying us together as one body, one block, as a couple.
All right, I'm not going to really go deep into the tribal differences or how the politicians have always used it to divide the people and rule over them, which is not a good strategy. A good example would be in Nigeria, where the politician they raise so high the boundary between who is an Hausa, who is an Igbo, not in the sense of building the Nigerian nation, but in the sense of exploiting the people. They are very good in this. And of course, also in other parts of Africa, this happened. And so by doing this, we take away the value that we have as a people of the thing that unite us together. Instead, we concentrate on what divides us, and this is not very good. All right, now looking at the culture, because the only way that we can bring about the culture is by celebrating it. That is the only way we can bring about the tradition and help the people to learn about it. Because if it is something that we will always read about in a book, it will be very far from us. But we are here. We are not people of the past. We are still present. Our tradition are still there. Now, let me give you an instance. You see, in the United States or in Europe, most of the sports that are practiced are part of the tradition of the people. Now, our tradition, when we come to the Olympics, there is no sport I know of coming from Africa. Yet, we say we have tradition. And yet, we say that we can only keep the tradition alive by practicing them. But how come we don't even have anyone being introduced to international sport where our children are born in a land that have been participating in a certain ritual, in a certain way of living, can do this as a professional also in this way? So that is my question, sir.
Good. And what you are saying is very true. And all these things have been in the system of us seeing ourselves as being inferior. And then also considering that everything white is better than us blacks. So like what you are saying is true. We have erred into all these areas, but it's high time that we change the system. Frankly, I've started working out in organizing the African leaders. I have a Prince Izibe in South Africa. We have started making a move. And also there's an organization called an ADU, which we just finished with the meeting just about the month in Accra. So all these things are in a way to bring in the real African tradition, and then we say that we can put a program. We are the real custodians of the land. We can get the land, we can start producing so that we become economically strong. Traditionally, what do we have to offer? What other tradition can we be doing between one country to another? Because all those traditional boundaries, all those countries are there. The white man just came and divided us. Naturally, we are all blacks, the same people. We only speak different tongue, the donation, what we call different language, but all these things are natural barriers. But let's look at what the white man did to divide us, and then we work towards bringing us together. And the only way we can do it is through tradition. So that if I'm here, I can also identify somebody in South Africa as also a friend and a brother. And then we identify somebody in East Africa, which is, from the same country that they've already been divided to segregate us. We unify ourselves on the traditional leadership, and then we bring in programs, we bring in games, we bring in cultures and other things that we can learn from each other. Besides that, we also look at the economic empowerment. What we have that somebody don't have, that we need, so that at least we can also work in mobilizing our resources and then to start bringing in developmental things. So yes, most of our people have thought that everything black is bad. But gone are the days. Now we are trying to unify ourselves, mobilizing ourselves. In fact, even we can even be using our own festivals to open it up for people to come and see, those from the neighboring countries, even those from the diaspora to only come in, so that we understand, we sit down, we teach them certain things about tradition, and they can also learn from us. And there's something that we also don't know, they can also teach it. So that at least together we can join forces as a family, the African family, to see how we can develop. Yes.
Thank you very much for that. Of course, that is the only way we are going to be able to safeguard our culture, because I was interviewing a guy one time here in Italy when I was doing a documentary about Pan-Africanism, and then at the point, of course, we're talking about religion, talking about tradition, talking about value, talking about culture, as it were. And then he was telling me, okay, now you look at it. If I have a horse, you have a horse, you leave your horse and you're riding my horse, you have the right to be complaining that your horse is abandoned on the ground. You don't, because you should be riding your horse. So I understand what have happened to us. We have basically been violated as a people. We have suffered a lot of tragedy. That is true. We just made mention of one, and when you were making mention or talking about slavery, and we can't pretend that there are no consequences to this. I understand that. I'm not speaking from the point of view of ignorance, thinking as if we just suddenly jump to what we are practicing today. I understand that. So we actually get to doing this under the whip of another person. All right, that is understood. Now, how do we manage to sow the positive image of our tradition? Because as it currently stands, we look at our tradition from a negative point of view. We usually look at it as a negative thing. I was just telling you just now of how the politicians in Nigeria use tribe to control the people, and this is already negative. By doing this, it means that if you are not a Europe, if you are, for example, you have a Fulani that is running the country, it makes sure that it's only the Fulani people that are in the key position. By doing this, it's signaling to the next person that, hey, when you come, we don't matter anymore, bring in other people. And whatever you do, you are basically sowing a bad seed in the country. Whereas there are a lot of good things about the Fulani people. By doing all the evil that they are doing now, we are not able to see those ones anymore. But it is a very complicated issue in that our cultural value need to be evaluated. We need to really practice it, promote it in a way that we continue to see the good thing in us instead of this divide and rule thing. Because you were making mention of the Fulani. The Fulani is not just a group of people in one country. They are people that are found across West Africa. And they have a lot of influence. So who is teaching about the good value of these people other than what the politicians are just showing as a bad image of these great people?
Yeah, my brother, do you know, actually our politicians are not helping us out. They are actually creating problems for us. There's a lot of propaganda. When I grew up, I never know this kind of unnecessary fight between the herders and then the crop farmers. I never know a Fulani to be carrying a gun or anything. Believe me, even it is part of our tradition that we don't even eat outside because of nobility. For me, you can never see me eating outside as a nobility. So there were a lot of things that people saw as people started doing which we never knew. So actually, it is actually a serious problem that whenever we hear that Fulanis are this, Fulanis are good, and then other people are also using the name and be doing bad things. I'm not saying that the Fulanis are angels. They are bad ones, and they are doing a lot of bad things. Even in Ghana now, we are always faced with this problem. That is why even the government added me as a member of the Ghana Cattle Ranching Committee to see how we can put sanity into all these things, to see to it that, no, if it is the cattle that is creating the problem, why are we not going the ranching so that at least those cattle can be kept at one place, a grass grown to feed them? But other people also sneak into our through this unapproved route. That is why they have even been a transhuman to see how cattle can come into this country. Yes, people are packaged. We don't try to look at the benefit of the tribe. We don't try to see to that the tribe is a very noble tribe. We rather get up and be fighting other people. People are using the media and saying all sorts of things. And some of our people are also contributing in making the tribe very unpopular. So yes, it's high time we start looking at it and then changing the ways, trying to embrace each other as brothers, put the Fulani issue aside, put the Igbo tribe aside, put the Hausa, whatever it is, or put the Ashanti tribe, let us come together. Yes, there is a lot that bounces more than what divides us. That is the way I see it.
That is the point. That is what we are trying to reinforce as a line. But there is a lot actually that unites us together than divide us. And of course, this question of crisis of identity, if we want to call it like that, we can see that by what they are doing, like what is happening in Nigeria today. I know that the conversation is not actually about Nigeria, but since we are talking about our culture, looking at the value of our traditional system, we are seeing that value is being violated again by our political elite, in that like you correctly said, Nigerians are not new to the Fulani people. We are brothers. We've been here for many, many years, no? We know how the Fulani behave. We know how they enter into our other territory of the country because they are not limited to a certain part of the country. They are not alien. They are Nigerians. But we have never seen Fulani taking gun and killing people in their own farm, bringing their cattle to go into the farmland of another person and destroy the crop that are planted, and then taking a gun and then shooting. We have never seen this before. So we are saying, what I'm actually saying is that the politicians are arming certain part of the community against the other so that this other can be fighting this one. Are they doing it on purpose? Or is it because the Fulani have suddenly they now lack where to graze the cattle? Is that the result? I don't understand this part.
Well, now when we look at the Fulani, the time has changed. The idea of free lanes where cattle can just go about entering into every place and be grazing is gone. Me and you understand that if you go to places like Brazil, there are a lot of cattle there, but you don't face this problem. If you go to Canada, it's the same thing. I was in Arizona, I said in 2019. A farm that has about 5,000 heads of cattle, which produce about 7 tanks of milk a day. This is what we are looking at. Instead of wanting to have thousands of cattle always be moving a day without any proper housing, your children don't go to school, you don't even know the benefits of those cattle, they become like a curse rather than a blessing. Why don't we try to also look at what did the white man do to have his peace? You can see somebody with a lot of cattle, but he's just chasing them, he will die, his children can come and continue with that. Instead of him to have settled at one place, buy a land, fence it, graze his animals there, grow the grass and feed them, and all this, a modern system. In Ghana, that is what we are now trying to do, and we are trying to get more investors to come into that. In fact, so this is now, as part of my duty as a member of the Ghana Cattle Ranching Committee, is try to come out with modalities in bringing in modern system of agriculture in terms of livestock. So these are some of the things that we are doing in Ghana. And I hope and pray that other countries will do so. Like in Nigeria, I'm sure every state has its own Fulani people. And other people also have cattle like the same Fulani people. From the district, they should try and register all the cattle owners. If you are a cattle owner, they should know you, they should identify wherever you are staying, and how many headers do you have. They should be registered under your name. They should have a tag, they should have an area of operation, which you can even bring a certificate of identifying or locating wherever they are. Even with your phone, you can know wherever the location of your animals are. And now if there's a problem, there should be a committee comprising the crop farmers and then the cattle headers so that they sit down, mediate, and look at compensation. Because definitely the way you love your animal, the way you want your animal to be good, likewise the crop farmer also wants it. How do you bring in your cattle to go and destroy somebody's farm? I don't buy that idea. So there should be a way. In Ghana, this is what we've already started. We're putting up a structure where we call them the capital Pulapo. They go around everywhere trying to sensitize the people on the need to coexist and to know that both the cattle and then the crops are also something that we all need to survive. And then if there's any problem, they can go to the district assembly because most of the cattle farmers are now being registered at the district assembly. So we know their allocation and we know if you take a laborer and then the age of the laborer, if it is up to 18 years, you shouldn't control more than 50 heads of cattle. And then we should know so that you put in proper structures. With a good structure, you can coexist in peace. So an idea of one using his cattle to destroy somebody's farm is not good. Likewise, there are also exploiters, people bring in trouble so that at least they can also have it as a duty. In Ghana, they have been an example wherever there's a problem, the cattle are killed because most of the Fulanis are mostly they don't need the meat. People take it and then turn it into bush meat and then sell it to people. So these are most of the factors that we are trying to solve. Yes.
You see, this is a very important point. No, though we're not going to have time to really dig it up because it covers a different angle that we should really need to explain. Because yes, just like I said before, these people, looking at the case of Nigeria, where it has become a big case, they are Nigerian people. They are not But what is happening is not normal. It's not supposed to be like that. No, the Nigerian people want to eat cow meat. They want to drink cow milk, and they want to continue to have their fellow citizens around, but not like this. It is not right. We are using the leniency of a particular culture as as a weapon against the culture itself. Because if we want to live in peace, I should respect you, you should respect me. You don't need to impose on me. There is no sacred cow. There is no person or a group of people that are better than the other just by belonging to a particular group of people. No, we cannot function like that. Now, as a head of a group of people, what do you think could be the right strategy for the living in peace? Because you said we should be able to live in peace. To live in peace, we must be able to respect each other. So what would be your strategy to succeed in that?
Yes. Number one, we need, like you said, we need to respect each other. There is nothing like respect. And then we should also need to know the human value. We should value human beings. One person's blood should never be shared because of this. But people are using it to make money. Ask yourself, how can a Fulani man get a gun? Where does he get a gun? There are people who supply all those guns, they are making businesses. Secondly, this politician will never allow us to have our peace. They rather bring in vigilantes and what to create political tension. For example, in the case of Nigeria, simply because even, excuse me, not because I'm a Fulani, if Buhari is the president, as a Fulani man, then what do people need to do to tarnish his image? These are some of the ideas. And because, like you rightly said, most of the Fulanis are Nigerian, you cannot separate the Hausa Fulani. That's why they are combined. And then believe me, the Fulanis are powerful in such a way that people are trying to come up with a strategy to break them. So these are all some of the options. But to me, like an Africanist, I don't look at that. I am just looking at the way where a Fulani and an Igbo man can coexist, eat together, plan things that, okay, now if I have my farm, during dry season, your cattle can come there and then graze and then leave the droppings, which is an excellent manure to do it. And then if it is some monetary distance, so that at least they can coexist. There should be an area which I call the cattle colony, where during dry season, the places are good, all the cattle should be there to be fed. And then there should also be introduction of modern system of agriculture, like the ranching, as I've been saying. And then there should also be businesses around the value chain, so that at least it can be generating businesses along the line. The droppings are excellent fertilizer. If you look at it, if we go by that, we are even going to reduce the importation of fertilizer. So there should be a system where people can coexist peacefully, and then there should be businesses and then economic activities between themselves. I look at that instead of, because now in the case of Nigerians, they are all Nigerians. You cannot remove the Fulani from Nigeria, neither can you remove the Igbo from it. They will fight and then coexist. But it's better for them to start understanding that they are all Nigerians and then they have to coexist. They need the meat, they need the yam, they need everything, because God created them to be at the same place. So this is the way politicians should stop interfering into their activities. Most of them, you'll be very surprised that even during Igbo land, or even in Igbo land, some of the cattle are for the Igbos. It has just been a profession that the Fulanis are good in taking care of their cattle, but most of them are also not the owners of the cattle. So now if you get up and kill it, indirectly you are also wasting your own resources without knowing. Because there are Igbos who have cattle, there are Yorubas who have cattle, and there are other tribes who have cattle, but all in the care of the Fulani. So this is the way we need to understand all this and then coexist and then plan ahead as a country, as a nation, as one people. This is the way I see it.
Thank you so much, His Highness. Yeah, it is true that that's what I was saying before, that this tip, it needs a little bit of time to really understand, because we really need to understand it from different angle. No, we cannot simply cry foul or just simply accuse blindly. We need time to be able to explain different part of it. The government, of course, in this case, we need to call upon the government, need to find a solution to the people's problem instead of pretending that it's not there or not doing the right thing to correct the error that is being there, because we are not introducing the Fulani to me as a Nigerian. I have known them before. We have been together before. We know how we have been reporting before. So the era of Buhari is not the era, it's not the time that Nigeria are just knowing the Fulani people. That is why it is very easy for us to understand that there is something wrong somewhere. All right, now, His Highness, since you were a boy growing up until now, what have you seen as a change, or have you really seen any changes in the politics, in the governing of ourselves as a people? Tell me, what do you see?
Yeah. We have changed a lot. In fact, in terms of tradition, because I grew up in the palace as a prince, and I know what the traditionally what our people were doing. You would be very surprised to know that during the was in Ghana, for example, during the British West African, this old man gave about 100 soldiers to go and fight alongside the British West African soldiers. But now the powers of the traditional leaders have been curtailed. They are not that powerful, yes. So now what we can do to help our people is to look at in terms of their education. What are we going to do to make sure that our children go? What are we going to do in making sure that the community has hospitals, the community have good water in terms of sanitation, and then the issue of drugs. Drugs has also become a major issue in the community. And then the issue of broken homes, because most often it is about family setup. If there's a lot of divorces, women alone cannot take care of the children. Therefore, it breeds other community problems. These are the challenges that we face. At first, we were not used to that. The issue of drugs have now created more problems, and then a lot of social, I don't know, social problem that we have now. Because you be there that there are people, and migration has also become a serious issue for us, especially in Ghana here now. We are always facing a problem migrant from Niger with children begging alongside the road, which we didn't know. So these are some of the challenges that we are facing, but we are trying our best to also to learn. And then I have also taken a project of mobile ICT, because most of in Ghana here we call them the Makaranta, where the children go to school because but they have never they have never seen a computer before, but we are in the computer world. And then how do people take exams in ICT, but they have never seen a computer, they have never filled it. So I have taken it as a campaign to start introducing getting computers for our schools, especially primary schools. And I go around to make sure that at least there are teachers in the school. These are some of the duties that as a traditional leader we have started. And then as a member of the Ghana Cattle Ranching Committee, what do we do to? There has been a lot of influx of Nigerian cattle in Ghana, but we said no. We are not going to kick them out or do anything as is being done in Nigeria, but we are now trying to see how do we develop businesses along it. We've managed to gotten a complete town, which we are making it as a Fulani town. It's called Bouquet in the north. We do annual what do you call it, gathering there, and then we are trying to bring in business. Very soon I'll be in Kano to talk to the administration there on what are we going to do to invest in this year. So we need to sit down and study the Fulanis and look at what exactly is the problem. And then changing conflict into benefit, as I always say, because when an issue comes up, we try to study it and see, okay, now what do we need to do to solve this problem? Now, Nigerians can look at packaging of meat and then exporting it into this American and Europe, because most of the Fulani cattle are eat organic. They are grasses that they eat. They don't add artificial things as you have in Europe and America, where your cattle eat all sort of things. If we can now be packaging meat and then exporting it, it can go a long way to stop this kind of stuff. So if there's any cattle in any state in Nigeria, they should try to look at businesses along it. To try and buy the cattle, package it into meat, and then do export. I think this one can go a long way to create more businesses, and then because if the animals are not the who coexist. So instead of fighting, bringing in cattle, set up industries, set up ranches, grow grasses, other people can go into grass cultivation, people can be doing milk pasturing and all those so that it's business. They can use it to be taking care of their children to go to school. The Fulanis can look at agriculture, majoring on agriculture and all those things. If they are not developed, there should be a curriculum set up for their children to do it. As some years back, they were doing the nomadic education and all these things. All these things can go a long way to let them know that no, their method that they were using are wrong. These are the new methods that are doing that is best for them. So I think when we use all those areas, we can go about it, and there will be sanity. Because the actual is if there's businesses, if people understand their right, if people, and then another thing, the number of cattle that they give it to children, taking it along to be reduced. I was at Abuja, we were on the United Nations, had a conference on this nomadic issue. If one is driving more than 50 cattle and a boy which is less than 18 years is driving more than with 50 cattle, definitely they can be problem. And then they should be properly trained to know where to go. They should go and graze. And then the state should give areas where cattle should be. I always call it the cattle colony, as I said, instead of allowing animals here and there to be entering into people's farm. No, these are the government has a role to play. The traditional rulers are the role to play. The cattle farmers are the traditional rulers, and then the herders themselves, those who are taking care of it, need an orientation and courses to know how to handle their cattle.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, like you rightly say, it is true. We should be seeing the business side of it because now in Africa, whether you are looking at Ghana or Nigeria or in Senegal, we know that the people need job. So for the fact that we even have this entrepreneurial spirit of taking the cattle around to feed and then bring them to slaughter and they have meat to feed the population, it's already a good thing. So we should never allow the bad element in the politics to use this as a weapon against the same people. Now, in this case, we're having one solution, and we are using it to create two problems, and it's not good. We should be looking at how do we create research into how to better rear cattle, how to produce food for cattle, how to send our children to school to learn about cattle rearing. This should be what the government should be doing. Should be what the people that are responsible are the traditional ruler or those who, because somebody should be in charge somehow. You cannot just go around and do whatever you like.
Let me give you a Ghanaian example. This kind of thing was happening in Ghana here. The first day I had an encounter with my president, that is President before, I told him, look, you know that we can, excuse me, we can turn this cattle business into a very profitable venture. It is out of this that the Ghana Cattle Ranching Committee was established. I'm a member. Excuse me. I'm a member. We are now trying to bring in modern innovation. The government has set up places like if you go to eastern region of our country, there's a place called Wawasi, where the government has set up a big land for cattle rearing with modern facilities and everything. Not only that, there's another area called Fantiakwa in the same eastern region, and then we have also got into that for all in the in the hope that we will set up this ranching to reduce this conflict and all those things, and then to make it business. So that if you have your cattle, you go, you take it there, you take care of it. There are shed, there are dormitory for your herders, there are tanks for them to go. They are being controlled. They are being supplied with medicine and vaccines and everything. So that when it is time for you to take it, you pay something and then you take it out. And then other businesses are trying to go. People are now trying to be taking milk from them to pasteurize it and sell. So these are some of the things that we have. You have to understand that the cattle business is a complete, and it's a complete thing, not just seeing through driving the cattle for there. There are people need to see to study on the best way to go about it. So it's a complete thing, and not to take it like so. To just work for themselves and people around to us. No, like I said, if you go to places like America, Canada, and Brazil, you see what they are using cattle. Why can't we go that way? If somebody's talking about 5,000 heads of cattle and it cannot control, why don't you reduce the number, buy a land, bring in all those modern facilities and start doing it? Because if you take proper care of your farms, you can get very good business. They can produce, you can have a good yield. So these are some of the things that we should try to teach them. And then they should try and be bringing in programs on television for them to know these are the way, instead of bringing in conflict and shooting. And they should look at the job and then making it more interesting for them. It's just like even the farmers, they should be tractors and everything to make the job so interesting rather than taking it as if you are a farmer, then the work that you are doing is a kid, or you are using cats and arrows cutlass and arrows. These are not what we want. We want to do modern system of agriculture, modern system of livestock, and modern system of crop, and then even the grasses should be grown and baled. These are what I'm looking at. This is what our traditional Fulani leaders should be telling the people instead of instigating them to fight. And then they should deal with the government. They should come closer to the government, write in proposals that this is the way we want to do it. Help us with the land, get the banks to help with the facility. How many people have cattle? Let them register and then let us know the strength, and then we come out with the package. This is the way forward.
Thank you. It's like maybe the people yet haven't realized that there are a lot of business opportunity here in Nigeria. Maybe that is why they are using it as a weapon to destabilize the people. Because if they do, they should be looking for a way to make money out of it because it's a business opportunity. There are a lot of Nigerians that don't have job. So if I were in a position of that is able to make certain rule, make law regarding this particular situation, I should take advantage of it to find solution to my people. I think that is what it really should be. All right, now looking at what is happening in Nigeria, looking at your role as a traditional ruler, what do you see as a solution? Of course, what you said before is already a solution. So tell me more about that, please.
Yes, you see, we are Africans, and we have very good part of us. But rather, we decided to negate everything that we are doing, thinking that everything African is bad. This is wrong. We have very good system that we should develop. Before the advent of the white man into Africa, how were we living? Are we not living in peace? So all this artificial demarcation of dividing the country, dividing this, dividing that will not help us. Now, if all the traditional leaders in Africa, even if not all, some of them can come together, there are leaders who have land. There are other leaders who have the financial model, but they don't have the land, but they have the knowledge. If we come together, we can come up, those with the ideas, those with the resources, and those with the land can produce for the whole Africa instead of importation of all these things to Africa. Africa has become a dumping ground that everything that is being produced over there is dumped for us here. Inferior qualities. Even now, even our food has changed. We believe in taking the white man's food rather than our own traditional meals, which has contributed a lot into diseases and all sort of things. So that's why we started collaborating and bringing ourselves together. Now, I started with the Africa, very soon we have some leaders in East Africa, those in West Africa, so that at least one day there can be a seminar so that we all meet and then we unfold our program. So now we have started contacting between ourselves so that we can come together as a united force, as Africans, as traditional leaders in Africa, and what are we going to do for our people? Yeah.
All right. You said also before that you were in Nigeria, I think in a meeting by the United Nations, something like that.
Yes.
Was it in line with this Pan-African idea that you went there? Can you tell us something about that?
No, I went there by the FAO sent me there to go and talk about the farmer header conflict. It was in Abuja that I went. And currently there's even something that we are trying to do with peace, unity, security, and strategy summit. Very soon it will come out in Nigeria. So we are trying to see how we can bring changes, God willing, for us to also have peace in Africa. Because why are the white not having this problem? Like only African countries, every African country with that to go, there's political instability, there is coup d'etat, somebody will say why? Why can't we think like the why? Why are they having peace and we are having trouble? They say we have a lot of natural resources, but we have the most troubles here. Why? Is something wrong with us? Is somebody somewhere pulling the string or something to his own advantage? It's high time our leaders start looking at all those things. We are tired with political instability. We are tired with all these killings. It's not necessary. We need to come together as a united force. God has given us all the natural resources that we want in Africa. All what we need to do, we need to think as leaders. This is the way. We shouldn't be thinking of ourselves. We shouldn't think of dividing the people so that you rule them. We should rather know that, no, why don't we come together to look at where we have, looking at using the SWOT analysis to look at our strength and our weakness, so that together we can put an impact into our African people. Africans are suffering. All the way people are passing through the Mediterranean to go and die simply because they want to go to Europe and America to make a living. Whereas we have all the things that we need here. Let us grow what we eat. Let us eat what we grow, and then let us be independent of ourselves. I tell you, the white people will follow us. They have just divided it to take all our resources, but if we come together, and then we should be aware of them that they will never let it to have our peace. If they see that we have started thinking of coming together, they will plan everything to destroy us. So if we have to be wary of them, to know that if we are working with ourselves, then we have to have a strategy to bring all of us together, to think African, to look at the resources that we have. God has given us everything. God has given us everything. Right at the back of your house, if you grow a maize, it will grow. Whereas in another country, if you go to Europe, it's a big problem. So why are they having peace? Why are they feeding us, dividing us, and using us to their own advantage? America and Europe were built from African resources. Why don't we think that way? That we know that why are we allowing them to be stepping a day in and day out? Why can't we think Africa for our own Africa? Traditionally, a father is the head of the family with the wives, 2, 3 wives, and their children. They coexist. It is so from the micro to macro. Together, we look at the whole Africa as a family, and then we live at peace. The wealth that we have is our wealth. How do we share it between ourselves? We trade between ourselves. We shouldn't take raw things like in Ghana, raw cocoa to Europe, so that they dictate the price for us. All what they can do is just to put some milk and sugar, package it, and bring it back to us at a very exorbitant price. We should process the cocoa, we should process everything and take it to them to buy it at their own prices. This is the way we have to do. So the government, the traditional leaders, the family, and everybody should come together for the benefit of Africa. This is the way I see it.
Yeah, I think that is the right way, in that we should be growing what we are eating and eating what we are growing. This way we'll be developing. Because also from the point of view economy, we should be speaking, and we should really be speaking a lot. Because I think every responsible leader see that his population is growing away. Not that they are taking flight and they are running away from the continent. They are basically facing death on the way, and yet they are embarking on it. That should speak to the African leaders. That should speak to the African leaders, both the traditional rulers and those in the Republican style. In that, I mean, okay, fine. You're a traditional ruler. When you talk among your co-rulers, what do you feel about this particular episode of the thousands of Africans who have died in the Mediterranean Sea trying to cross to Europe? At least this should now push you into resolving, having a solution. Of course, not you alone, but when you gather together as traditional ruler with the people that are under you, there is nothing you cannot do. So when you gather together as a club of African traditional ruler, what do you think about this episode?
Actually, it is a very sad event, because for somebody to leave his family to pass through the sea, the Mediterranean, some died in the ocean simply because they want greener pastures which are not existing. Now, the idea is, if the whites were not also serious in the country, we wouldn't have been there. So what I always tell them is that, look, try and develop, let us all come together to develop our place, so that they can also come, because then we have something that they also don't have. So these are some of the things that, but how many of us thinks in that way? Most people believe that if you are a king or a chief, you only go and take contact with the government, and then during politics, you support them for them to win power. This is the way they are looking at it. So a few of us who are talking like this, that our enemies who are plenty, because they see, why are you talking like this? Why are you beginning us? But the traditional leaders should learn to be independent, to be the father of the nation, so that you always say things as it is. Say the truth, no matter what, no matter how painful it is to say. It is time for us African leaders to unite together, both traditionally and the government, to look at the resources that we have, and then what is the best way for us to do to emancipate our people. And then to let them realize that the white man also suffered a lot to build this country. We can also do the same to develop our country. And then we have good things that they also don't have. We grow what we eat and eat what we grow at the same way. And then we try to also love our culture and tradition.
All right.
Rather than
Now,
thinking everything white is better than the black.
okay, thank you, His Highness. Now, this eating, growing what you eat, eating what you grow, I think is one of the founding idea of Thomas Sankara, for example. And I think it's a very fundamental in terms of the survival of any people. Because you look, I live in Italy, for example, the food that is consumed in Italy, I'm not saying all the food, but at least to a large extent, the food that is consumed in Italy is produced in Italy. Of course, you know, Italy do not have gold or diamond, but they survive based on what is on their land. And what is on their land is the agricultural possibility. What I'm trying to say is that Italy is not richer than Ghana or Ivory Coast because it's about the population being put to work. These same population that are running away from Africa are the ones that were supposed to be put to work. If we allow them to run away, who is going to be put to work? Because at the start of slavery, at the start of the industrial style of slavery, the people that were taken away from Africa were young people. And this is one of the consequences in that Africa were actually like to dry out because you were left with old people and two very young people who could not produce to sustain the economy. And it is natural that the economy will fall. And since then, we have never risen. And today, I think Africa have the chance in that it have the youngest population in the whole of the world, probably in the whole of human history. The youngest people are in Africa. What are we going to do with that? Are we going to allow this population to waste? Then we will blame it on the European? What are the strategy? What are our plans?
You see, we most of our youth have realized that they can only make it. And then we, because of lack of knowledge, our educational system is not good to encourage them to stay. Our universities, our polytechnics, our training college, the program that they have, at the end of the day, they finish their school work for them. Unlike if you go to the Western world, people embrace agriculture. They start learning about the technology right at the primary schools and whatnot. So that, but most of those that leave the country, they are even jobless. They don't even have jobs. They don't have any training to do, and they don't even like the system because what they know is that the cutlass and harrow system of working. If you go to but their job are not enjoyable, but we have the resources. Instead of, like, for example, we import a lot of rice from Vietnam and Thailand. We can ban all those things and then to produce what we eat so that those things that the quality is about bringing in the machinery. So if, like, I'm the head of state, I'll ban the importation of rice into this country, or even to reduce it, so that the farmers who produce rice can get the ready market. Now, with regard to now you realize that there's a lot of importation of this chicken and all those things. I will ban all those things we produce, and then we have to start eating what we grow. So the number of dollars that the hard currency that our business people use to go and import all those things can be used to buy all those machines. We create jobs for them also to stay. Most of those who leave the country don't have jobs and they don't see any future in staying here. And they also have an ambition. Their people are poor, they want to go out and get something to come and eat. You know it already. You are a Nigerian, why did you go to Italy? Because you also realize that that place would be much better for you than Nigeria.
All right.
And then you didn't go to Italy because you wanted to be in Italy. You wanted to go to Italy because there are a lot of things that you think when you come, you can help your people. That is the same thing. Only that the medium that you left and what they left is different. They went by road, you also have another source of blame, but the same aim that you want to go and make ends meet to come and help your people. So now, if we are able to make Ghana or Nigeria or Cameroon or any of these African countries a place worth living, people will stay. Why are people always going to the embassies for visas? It's simply because they find out their situation here, they don't see any future. Yeah.
All right. His Highness, you are within the corridor of power that you are a
Not
traditional
very much,
ruler.
not very much.
Okay. Of course, you have a good credential when John Kufuor was the president, if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
Yes, I don't know.
Okay. Now, what did you tell him as a solution to the problem? Because I understand that the republic, what I mean by this democratic system that we have, because it is a system that is not our own, it's coming from somewhere. Somebody is controlling it. We cannot deny that. That is obvious because someone have to be in charge. And since we are not really yet free, somebody is controlling us. We understand that. We are not children. Okay. Now, the traditional ruler, you have this you had the possibility of able to speak to the power that be of what can be the possible solution. What did you do? What did you tell them as a plan to save the people?
Yeah, for that, my government have been doing that for long because we have within the agri sector, we have ready for food and jobs. We have a lot of programs that they brought so that the Ghana becomes independent. But the underlying factor that it's not about what we see, it's about what are the conditions between them and other developed countries like America, Europe, China, and all these things. So these are some of the ways. What we need to do that is when they are transacting between government to government, we should be very careful in giving out our resources to this because at the end of the day they capitalize on the conditionalities and then they tell you that you have to import up to this level from us, you have to give us this, or that you have to reduce jobs and all those things. So it's not about what they say, it's about what are their conditions when they go to IMF and then these distribution institutions. These are also some of the things about because we are not part of it because here. So sometimes, like in Ghana, there was a time that these Chinese were just destroying our land, but it took the ministry a bold decision to kick all of them out of it because they were destroying our land, which they cannot do in their country. So why are they doing it here? So it's high time we also take bold decisions as a sovereign country to bring in policies that goes a long way to help us and the people, rather than giving our countries and then open our doors to everybody to come in and do whatever they want from Europe and America.
That is also another important point now, that of the IMF and the International Monetary Fund giving money to Africa and then dictating what happened in the country. No? A good example would be, anyway, I don't want to go to Nigeria again. I probably what happened during the Babangida era and what led Nigeria to a high interest rate of debt that it take a lot of time to pay off. Anyway, let's leave that aside. Now, why do we go there in the first place? Because we don't have the paper money, the money that is controlling the day. But we have the resources, which is actually the real money. Because they come with the paper, they give us paper, and we give them the resources. Okay, like you said, because they're the one in charge of the system, so they tell us what to do. But do we have the power to be able to refuse it? In these contracts that we are signing, do we even have any responsibility they need to say, okay, that clause, I don't like it. This one is not going to be beneficial to my people. If you don't remove it, I'm not going to sign. Does it happen like that? Or is it they prepare it from London, Washington, and they bring it to us, we just have to sign? Is that how it works?
I think what we have to do, yes, maybe it works in that way, but it all depends on the way they started it. Well, I don't know what they do, but I think that we should look at luxuries and necessities. What are luxuries to them and what are necessities to them? And then we should put our emphasis on the necessities, things that they need. For example, I know the importance of chocolates to most of people in America and Europe because it's part of their delicacy. We will say that now we are not going to sell the cocoa to the wrong form. We are going to process it at this price for you. Either you take it or you leave it. Not only Ghana, there are other countries which produces cocoa. So we can, most of the countries that produces cocoa can come together and dictate the price and they will follow it. But other things that we have already been saddled with debt that cannot be serviced, charges and what have you. So we need to have a holistic look at the way forward, and then we see what we can do so that at least our people can be free. But with this trend, I'm sure we can never be liberated if we don't take a bold decision to always say, no, we are going this way. either you agree like this LBGT, whatever they call it. The condition is that if you don't allow them to go it now, they are going to stop helping you. If it is me, I'll tell them, don't help me. Take your distance away, and then we stay and then leave us to stay. It's God who is the caretaker and who is the provider and who provides.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that. We did bold step. This is also what we have talked about in this podcast, in that we need quality leadership, in that we need people who must understand that being a leader is not a simple thing. If you are not qualified to lead, don't come. Of course, I'm not talking of traditional ruler. That one, we don't elect it and understand it. But I'm talking of our president, prime ministers, because those are the ones that really call the shot. Because you have testified to that. When they call to sign the bill in Washington, they don't call the traditional ruler. When we get these people that are representing the people, no, everybody cannot go there to represent the people. We should have certain people that are qualified to speak for the people. Are they not supposed to understand what is going on, the suffering that the people are undergoing? That this idea of producing what you eat and eating what you produce is not supposed to be just a fancy idea. It's supposed to be a reality. Because in any other place other than Africa, it is a reality. The US produce the food that they eat. It's not a philosophy. It's something that is really happening. It's the same thing that's happening in England. It's happening in Italy. It's happening in France. It's happening in Germany. We have land too. Why is it not happening? Why is it just a fancy idea, a philosophy that we could produce what we eat? Why are we not producing what we eat? What is stopping us?
You see, gone are the days some people use the cutlasses and arrows to you produce in a very small quantity. Secondly, the government should be able to help people with machines, and then the banks should give loans to the youth who wants to go into agriculture. By a situation where a person finishes school, he has nothing, the bank don't help him there, and then the condition is so hostile for him, definitely he will be forced to run away. And then the policies that our government brings in are also areas that we need to have a look at. It's not about fancy policies, sitting down, writing something, taking coffee, and then feeling. You rightly said that the real people who matter and those who should be around giving advice to the government is not the people. Why? Because politics is a game of just divide and rule. They just gather the same youth and then the same citizens and then give them money to campaign. At the end of the day, they elect people who have already invested their money in them. And then when the fellow goes to the corridors of power, what he's looking at is what is he going to get from those expenses that he made to take it back at the detriment of the country. So the policy where people, only the rich can go into politics is bad. They should identify those with the good heart, those who believe in the country, those who want to work to be selected as leaders. So even the selection of our leaders to a higher position of the land is also a bigger problem. I know the politicians are not to be trusted. Now, the easiest way to make money is to go into politics. That is why we go to the university, the political science department are always full. Because people think that is the easiest way to make money. But there are honest people who are not only in for money, they are in to do the right thing, they are in to also look at their salaries, they are in to make sure that his neighbor eats. This is what we mean by leadership. It's not about just big English, big codes and big. That is not what we want. We want pure traditional people who believe in the system. The pure traditional leaders can be the head of state too.
All right. Yeah. It can be the head of state too. All right. Now we're looking at the connection, the collaboration that should or that possibly can exist between the traditional rulers in Africa. Because I'm trying to link to this line, because the only way that we can be able to make any headway as a people is if we unite together. Because as an individual, you only need one bullet and you are gone. But when you are like 10, 15, 20, you then need like 10, 50, 20 bullets to be able to kill the African people, the leaders, I mean. You really need to be very expensive in that. You need to organize an army to do that. which means if the African traditional ruler, if they have the power to do anything really, and they stand and demand that something change, it will change. But if they don't agree, if they divide among themselves, they can't stand. So there is no way an individual, no matter how powerful you are, you can stand in the forest. So what kind of collaboration really do exist among you, the traditional rulers in Africa?
Well, we are not looking at taking the position of head of state or anything, but we believe that when we come together, because even before the white man came, the traditional rulers were ruling the people. Be it economics, be it spiritual, be it anything that you may think. So this is the area that we are looking at. And then we look at what, because most of the traditional leaders also own land. So when we look at that, we look at coming together, that gives us the fulcrum or the power to at least the lands are ours. Now, if we are getting investors or whatever are we going to also start looking at the right people to be taking sensitive positions traditionally so that we complement the work of the government. And now the other issue is the traditional leaders should know that they are traditional leaders. They shouldn't get themselves too much into the affairs of the government because more or less they will be corrupted along the line. So these are some of the things because the government use the traditional leaders to talk to the people, whether they are doing the right or wrong. At the end of the day, the desired ambition is not achieved. The traditional leaders got corrupted along the way. They cannot tell the truth. This is the point.
And this corruption is very trickish, no? It's very trickish. Because if I ask you now, when your father, your forefather, those before you were the ruler, before we get entangled in this unholy romance between African and the Europeans, of course, you would be able to give me a clear indication of how the economy was organized. It was organized for the interest of the people. They didn't need to go to Paris to sign some beautiful idea or to London. People would tell that this is now the trend. You don't need somebody to tell you the trend. The trend should be about your people, their survivor. Because Africa today, we don't count. Our leaders don't count, just as the people do not count. Because the leaders, they think that by going there to draw their agbada, they will be counted as responsible. No. As long as your people are useless, you are equally useless. Because you are running over a useless people, it means you are equally useless. You are a president of useless people. Now, for you to be responsible, you must make your people count. In that they should count in the area of aeronautic, in science, in technology, in the production of food, in trading, in military. They should be able to do that, or they are just like the people. All of us are slaves. What would be your recommendation, His Royal Highness, to be able to work together to find a solution? Because, like you said, this is the system that we have now. We cannot change it overnight, but we can certainly collaborate. We can work together. So what do you see to be a kind of the solution? What should be the strategy? How do we get out of this quagmire?
Our leaders are junior friends to the superpowers because they are not their mate, they are junior friends. And then a situation where somebody calls you a friend, but he dictates what you eat, he dictates what you wear, he dictates where you go. You are not his friend, you are rather a slave. So that is the idea of the neo-colonialism that came in. They are not coming to fight you, but they teach you your policy ABC is not good. If you do this, that is the only way you can get it. And we are giving you this, but you have to reduce your workforce by this. If they say reduce your workforce by this, down they are telling you that you are going to have a ratio of dependence at this level. We don't need any conditionalities. Now, our forefathers, they did not go anywhere, as you said. They were just using the real traditional setup to rule everybody. And if they come together to help whoever is not okay. For example, in Africa, we have a lot of countries. We have those who are a little bit richer than others. Now we should come together as one united Africa to look at the resources of each country, where one is having the strength, another one is not having, there should be trade between us. That is why they said they set up the African Continental Free Trade, but is it working? Now we look at where, if I have the money, but you have the resources, but you need my money to develop it, we should be organizing it in ourselves. If I produce, I take it to your country. If this bank did this, we do that, so that at least at any time we do it, and then there's a monitoring, so that nobody deceives the rest. The white will follow us. The superpowers will know that now Africa is realizing its effort. Believe me, in the real world situation, they take Africa to just be consumers and nothing but consumers, don't produce anything. And then our own diaspora brothers and sisters who are there, they want to be part, they want to come to Africa, they have the knowledge. And they are rather even helping them, because there are even Black people who are also excelling in other fields in America and Europe. Why are we not inviting them to bring them home so that they come and then we build our own Africa, instead of where they are not being regarded? Our forefathers haven't done the right thing, so we can use it as a point to bring them together. The knowledge that they had, when we bring them to Africa, tell them, look, we did a mistake, but you are not totally wrong. Even though you were sold, your forefathers were sold out as slaves outside, but you've learned something that we need in Africa. So come back home. Come back home and let us forget all the differences and then make up to become a united force. You can do that because they will also like to come and then build Africa. Let us give them the chance. Let us explore and see wherever they are. If there's a need for us to even take our own traditional leaders to go and talk to them and bring them back to Africa, we need to do that.
Are going to grow up, I believe we will, because at the moment, Africans are big babies. And as big babies, we are not responsible for anything. You know, when you have a child, you are responsible for your child. If he doesn't have food to eat, you give to him. If he need to sleep, you even made the child to sleep because it's a baby. So Africa currently, we are babies. Yeah, but big ones, big babies. So we need to cry to the European, to the America for everything because we are still babies. But we hope that one day we will grow. So
one thing is a baby. One thing, we are baby with the resources, but we don't know the value.
Okay, if you have a resources and that resources you don't have the value, you don't use it in, it's like you don't have anything.
Yes, but if you have your own brother who has been taken somewhere and has been taught to use the resources, why don't you go and bring him so that together you build your nation?
That's it. Let's hope that somebody is listening. What would you say as the most important thing to learn about the Fulani people?
Well, what I would say is that the era of the Fulani being termed as terrorists, being termed as all these things to us in Ghana here is something that is so sad to us. We are looking at the situation and are trying to bring in businesses around it. And then the only solution is to go ranching. So we've started a campaign on this. And then I also want them to know that Fulani is a very noble prize. We are not known to be people who are always creating problems. Even though there are people who have sneaked in and then be putting in the Fulani there to be doing things that are not good. Fulani are supposed to be people who are peace-loving people. Fulani are supposed to be very knowledgeable people. Fulani are supposed to be very religious people. So I will tell them that all those things that they are doing to bring the tribe name into this good is not something that we are not known to be doing those things. And we are praying that they stop it and then look at the line of peace, look at the line of development, look at the way they coexist, and then they should bring scientific ideas into their businesses. That is the cattle. And I'll say that Africa is our home to our own brothers and sisters in the diaspora. Yes, it is true that they've been forced, their forefathers were forced through on unhygienic way, unbelievable way to take them there. But they've also learned something good. We are now opening up Africa for them. Africa is their home. They can come. Those things that they've learned, they should come with the little resources that we have for us to eat what we grow and grow what to eat and be independent of all those international influences. And then we should try to love each other, to live at peace with each other, to look at our culture as one of the best in the world. Africa will have a lot of cultures which are so good. Let us embrace each other as a body and then know that God has given Africa everything. All what we need now is leadership and then good heart for our people. And not be thinking of ourselves, but for our people.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehe Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehe Ewanfo. Thank you so much for listening and talk to you in the next episode.